this is Ashley Field with task number 16. We're going to start. We have a few instruments that were used in surgery today. It's just a small pack, so it's basically hemostats, needle holders, 2 sets of forceps, a scalpel handle, some towel clamps, and some mayos and meds and bombs. So we're going to go ahead, first things first. All the sharps were removed from this, so the blades were removed, so there's nothing for me to take off them. We're going to go ahead and start by just rinsing them with cold water. So we'll rinse all of these, and these are going to go ahead and be placed in a neutral pH cleaner solution, which you can see right here. It's added to 30 mLs of water for 1 fluid ounce of cleaner. So I already have that poured into this bowl here. So I'm going to rinse these off, and they'll be put directly into that bowl to soak for a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make sure all the instruments are open when I put them in. And the rinsing is just to basically get any obvious blood or tissue off of them so it doesn't sit, which can cause like corroding and rusting. And our instruments have bands on them, so I just move the bands and make sure we get underneath them just for our color coding system here. Make sure to open up and close all the box locks and ratchets. All right, so our instruments are rinsed. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the bowl that's with the cleaner with soaking in. I'm going to just put it in the sink so it's easier for me to clean them. I'm just going to move the handle out of the way so that doesn't dilute the cleaner. All right, so we're going to go ahead. I have my soft bristle brush here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean them. I'm going to pay attention to the serrations and just make sure to get into all the grooves. You don't want to use a stainless steel brush on instruments because it can create holes and just nicks in the instruments that will render them useless for surgery. So make sure to use a soft bristle brush. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to turn on some cold water, and I'm going to start by cleaning. So these are plain forceps. So I'm going to clean the thumb print handle, and then I'm going to get the insides going with and then against, and again I'm going to move our bands off of the instrument a little bit just so I can get under there, and then we're going to go ahead and rinse. And then I'm going to put it into a separate bowl, and then that'll be taken to the ultrasonic cleaner. And we're going to make sure we get all the box locks, closing and opening them, just to make sure we get all of the areas. And again, paying attention to the serrations and the teeth on the forceps. And then I'm going to make sure we get the ratchets, because that's where some blood likes to hide. Both sides. And the thumbs, fingers, and rinse. And the same thing with the rat tooth forceps. Make sure you get the teeth clean and move the bands out of the way. And you always want to inspect them and make sure you don't miss anything obvious. We're going to clean our mayos here. Again, getting the box locks again. And thumbs. And just do a quick inspection. And we have our towel clamps. It's the same thing you want to get in the box locks. And the ratchets. We have our other towel clamp, moving the bands, Getting the ratchets and the box locks. We have our Kelly hemostats. Again, we're going to go to and fro with the serrations on each side and getting our box locks. And our ratchets. And inspecting. We have our needle holders. And the box locks again. And the ratchets. And again, I'm still moving the bands just to make sure I'm getting under them because stuff likes to hide in them. Okay, we have our scalpel handle. Make sure to get into the grooves on this one. There's a lot of stuff that hides where the blade sits. And then last we have our medicine bombs. So we'll go with the grain on these. And again, fingers. And I'll just inspect them and make sure everything looks okay. Yep. Okay, so our instruments are ready to be put into the ultrasonic cleaner. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, which is located across the treatment area. So I'm just going to pause the video and we'll be right back with that. Okay, so our instruments are clean. This is our ultrasonic cleaner. We use the same neutral pH detergent that we use to clean the instruments manually in here. It just has a separate, a different dilution. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to load all of the instruments, making sure that they are open and that nothing is clamped completely shut, just to make sure that everything has a chance to be cleaned thoroughly. Any delicate instruments that you would have to do this with, you would do them on a separate cycle other than with bigger instruments, just so they don't get damaged. But these are all pretty sturdy instruments, so they can go together. And we are going to do this for a total of 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead, we have our timer here. I'm just going to turn this on, and we'll be back in 10 minutes, and then we'll lay the instruments out and do the lubrication process. Okay, so our instruments are finished in the ultrasonic cleaner. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them, and we're going to lay them out on this towel to do the lubrication and for them to dry until they can be packed again. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put them into this bowl, make sure everything's empty. I'm just going to bring them over here. So first I'm going to inspect them and just make sure that there is nothing broken on them, that they're still usable, that everything meets up accordingly, and that nothing needs to be repaired and there's no obvious chunks taken out of them or anything like that. So here we have our mayos, so everything looks good, everything lines up, and they do seem to be cutting okay. There was no complaints from the surgeon, so I'm going to line those up. These do have to be lubricated, so we do have a spray lubrication instead of the milk bath, since the milk bath can tend to harbor bacteria. So this, we just spray on the instruments that need it, which are the ones that have any box locks or ratchets. So I'm going to go ahead, since this one does have a box lock, we're going to go ahead and just spray, and we'll let that sit. And again, we're going to inspect our hemostats. Teeth line up, everything works. Okay, so we're going to spray our box locks. And that's it. We'll lay that out. Our towel clamps, they line up accordingly. Nothing's broken. They don't have any obvious chunks. So I'm going to go ahead and spray the box locks on these. Another Kelly hemostat. All the teeth seem to be lining up. Nothing's obviously broken. And it moves easily. So we're going to go ahead and spray the box lock on this one. We have our needle holders. These needle holders are actually a little bit loose, so I don't know if you can see that. So that can cause some issues with the cutting. They might not be able to cut suture efficiently, so I'm actually going to put these aside, and we will have to send these out to Spectrum to see if they can repair them or if they just have to be replaced. So I'm not going to do anything with these. I'm just going to put them aside, and I will make a note of that for this pack. So we have a pair of plain forceps here. We don't have to lubricate these since there's no box locks. There's nothing that's going to be moving against each other. So I'm just going to make sure that the teeth line up appropriately on this one and that there's nothing bent or off with them. So everything looks good with these. We have our towel clamps again. Everything looks okay. Everything lines up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, lubricate the box lock. And then we have a pair of rat tooth forceps. So again, these don't have a box lock on them, so nothing is going to have to be lubricated. So I'm just going to make sure the rat teeth line up, which they do. And there's no obvious nicks or dents in this instrument. Right, and then we have our medicine bombs. So again, I'm just going to make sure that they seem like they're free-flowing and they feel like they can cut. So they don't need to be sharpened or anything like that, and they're pretty stable, so they don't need to be sent out. So I'm going to lubricate the box lock on these. And then last we have our scalpel handle. So again, no box lock on these, so these don't need to be lubricated, but I'm just going to make sure that there's still no blood or anything left over, which I checked all the instruments for, and that everything seems to be okay. There's no obvious nicks or scratches in the instrument, and this seems to be good. So that is basically it for this pack. This was one of our small packs. So we're going to let these dry. If they don't dry by the time we leave today, we're just going to pat them dry, and then they will be sterilized because we don't like to leave stuff overnight here. And that is basically it for instrument packing. Thank you.